Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Onside. I'll be your host today, Lewis, and I'll be joined, as always, by our resident Leeds fan, if you hadn't guessed it already, Ayub. Ayub, understated question. How you doing?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I've even put the top out there as a cause for celebration. You have to celebrate. I mean, we live in toxic times, and it's not always a cheerful time to be a Leeds supporter. But this was just amazing. I still haven't recovered. I've got to be honest. I mean, it's probably the most amazing experience that I've had, which is strange. I mean, we've done well in the Premier League. We've had a certain amount of success, but yesterday, because you've got to bear in mind it's been 40 years since we've won at Old Trafford, so it's an amazing experience. Great result. I mean, it was as usual. I was absolutely nervous wreck, but I'll explain about the game sort of when you ask me.
Yeah. Hold your horses, Ayub. Hold your horses. I mean, it tells you a little bit about our friendship, Ayub. Bournemouth beat Arsenal, and you send me the old eyes emoji. Leeds beat United in a game that you rightly mentioned. I think it's the first time you've won there since 1981 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I suddenly say to you, listen, let's do a quick 20-minute shoot. I'm going to give you your shine, going to give you your flowers. Let's talk about all things Leeds. Tells you a little bit about our values. But anyway, we digress. Ayub, straight to the game yesterday, Monday night. Under the lights, Sky Sports had Carragher and Keane, I believe, in the studio. Massive build-up. You had very little hope for Leeds, but in the end, Ayub, an incredible performance. That's the first thing I would say. And a result that many believe, or at least Gary Neville does, takes you to safety. Talk us through the game. More importantly, Ayub, talk us through your emotions, because I know what you're like when it comes to April and May, when it comes to all things Leeds United. To be fair, fairly consistent from August onwards. To be fair, there's not much change. But tell me a little bit, how was the game for you? How did you experience it? But what an incredible result, Ayub.
Yeah, I mean the result obviously was incredible, but I mean we did a shoot once about sort of my sort of support for Leeds and how much it sort of means to me, and it is. I mean it's almost to a certain extent. Some people might view it as unhealthy. I think it's the reverse. I think it's quite healthy. Because it is a great form of escapism for me, but it is extremely sort of nerve-wracking, intense. I mean, I didn't watch the game. I couldn't watch the game, which is a bizarre thing to say, but it just means so much that really my sort of stress levels will be through the roof if I watch the game. But I follow it. I mean, this is the thing you see. I mean, people sort of find it quite strange that I'm following it on social media, but it's in real time. I mean, it's a strange one. It's almost like sort of maybe reading a book rather than watching a film, because in a sense you can picture things. And the journalist that I follow, Graham Smith, is very good. He's sort of I mean, obviously it's X, so there's a limited number of characters, but he's very descriptive. So you get a full picture of exactly how the game's going and the emotions within the game. So prior to the game, I had very little expectation. My brother-in-law did say, when I was in London over the weekend, and he did say to me that he fancies Leeds purely because Man United haven't played for about 3 weeks. And at the time, I sort of scoffed at it. I sort of said, no, these are professional athletes. But maybe there is some truth in that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've watched the highlights. Obviously, I've been able to watch the game. And I followed it on social media. And they were very slow off the blocks, Man United. And maybe that is a result of that 3-week gap, because in a sense, I mean, these are finely tuned athletes, but you still need to be match sharp, and they just didn't seem to be match sharp. But it was just, I mean, we should have scored. DCL. I mean, he's a guy that sort of drives me to frustration, because I mean, you know what you get with DCL. You're not going to get somebody who's going to score 20 goals plus. But I've always said that when you're a team fighting relegation, you've got to have a clinical striker.
Yeah.
And DCL is far from that. And he should have scored. I mean, some people might just sort of say that he's done everything that he can do. I don't know. Maybe a better, more sort of adept striker perhaps just angles his foot slightly. So rather than going straight, maybe it just sort of goes to one side or the other side. But within a few minutes after that, Okafor, and I've talked about Okafor. I mean, he's nowhere near Rafinha's class, but he's the
Mm.
only sort of sprinkling of stardust that we have. He's had a very mixed sort of season, mixed campaign. He's had lots of injuries, and when he has played and when he's been fit, he's been hot and cold. But over the last few weeks, he's been probably our standout player because he does have that sort of X factor. Uh, so I was absolutely delighted that he was fit because there was sort of talk that he wasn't sort of fit for the game or wasn't going to be fit for the game. So
Yeah.
I was absolutely delighted he sort of started because we need everybody sort of fit and raring to go. We've got a few injuries, and Anton Stack is a massive miss. So obviously there's a lot of things going against us. But I just thought, in terms of the start, in terms of the application, the attitude, absolutely magnificent. And again, credit to Falk because obviously
Sorry, what was
he's
that?
he's
What? Just come again.
but
Come again.
no. There will be a slight criticism of Falk later on, but he's obviously done the right thing because at the end of the day, you've got to give sort of credit where it's due. So he's obviously he's had to navigate injuries to key players. Joe Roden and Anton Stack. These are sort of rocks for us. Rodon he's been immense. He's a colossus at the back, and Stack is. I mean, he's 6'4", but he runs the midfield. I mean, Ampadu's quality, but Anton Stack just has something sort of different. So to have those two players missing, it was always going to be a big ask. So obviously there's a responsibility on Falk to try and sort of make sure that he gets the team focused and at it. Bearing in mind, this is a ground that we've not won for 40 years. Now, in saying that, we've been out of the top flight for a number of those years, but
Yeah.
every time we've played, we've never really sort of challenged Man United. In fact, we've got a really poor record against Man United throughout our sort of our Premier League history and prior to that, the old First Division. So
Yeah.
it was a big ask. I mean, as I said, a draw would have been a miracle. That's what I was expecting. So to play like we did in that first half, but again, the frustration was. I mean, we were 2-0, which is quite good, but it was with Leeds. I just know that we just don't have that sort of that sort of. We haven't got the ability to keep clean sheets. So I always knew that we need to be 3 or 4 up to really for me to feel comfortable. So and that there was that Tanaka chance right at the end. But
Yeah.
credit to Martinez. I mean, Martinez just came from nowhere. He just popped up. I mean, Tanaka did everything. Maybe that one touch at the end just took the ball a little bit too far, so he had to sort of stretch, and it gave Martinez a chance. But credit to Martinez. That almost for me was something that I thought if we'd have scored that goal, I would have been pretty confident. Because I knew that United in the second half were going to improve. They were nowhere sort of
Yeah.
going to play to the standards that they did in the first half. So again, second half it's fine. Martinez a little tug, which I mean, it's if that's violent conduct, then
I've got a very
I mean,
strong opinion about this, but yeah, carry on.
yeah. So Martinez sending off. I mean,
Yeah.
that is just the stars have aligned. Everything is going for us. And just talking about everything going for us. I mean, obviously I didn't watch the game, but obviously when I've watched it in the highlights, that first goal. Now we've been plagued with bad luck. And we never get the rub of the green. When I've looked at that first goal, I mean, I'm going to be sort of interested to find out what your take is.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not quite a forearm smash, but DCL, he sort of does have his arm quite high up. He's obviously impeded Euro, and then obviously it's just fallen to Okafor, who's sort of who's tucked it in. On another day,
Yep.
that could have been something that was sort of that goal could have been chalked off, and I probably wouldn't have been happy, but I would have had to accept it because when I looked at it, I thought, well, yeah, it's something that I've seen given many times. So we had a great deal of good fortune with that. And then Martinez, I mean, they say if you pull somebody's hair, it's I don't know whether it's an automatic sending off, but it constitutes violent conduct. But
Right.
that was that was the most gentle of tugs on his man bun I've ever seen. So again, that was great fortune. But Leeds being Leeds, when Casemiro scored, that was a really poor goal to concede. Really poor defending. And that's something that we've done far too often, and it's cost us many points. I mean, we've sort of lost points at the death many times basically
Yeah.
just making schoolboy errors and just sort of switching off. And that again was inexcusable. You just can't do that. A good finish by Casemiro, who's very, very good, sort of with his head. And then I absolutely panicked. I was going from room to room, and if somebody had a camera on me, it would have sort of you would have thought there's somebody seriously ill. The distress I was in.
Yeah. Yeah.
If so, it was, and with the 7 minutes added time as well, it was painful, painful, but. Uh, the joy then was
Yeah.
just it was unrivaled. I mean, I absolutely was buzzing. I mean, I went straight down. Obviously, I wanted to see the aftermatch sort of conversations. I mean, Michael Carrick weren't impressed. A little bit. He's a little bit spicy.
Certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I can understand. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I mean, he can't have been happy with the result. But he was. I thought it was a little bit out of order. But absolutely delighted. And then I just did not sleep. I kept watching the highlights, listening to interviews, listening to podcasts from Leeds United
Yeah.
content creators, and it just was the most amazing feeling. And it's one that we've been in the Premier League before in the Bielsa where we finished ninth. So in theory, you'd almost sort of think that that probably was as good as it gets. But that was in COVID. There was no fans, and I just always thought that that's almost a year of football that you can sort of scratch because it was there were some bizarre results, some weird results. I mean, we even had a result against Man City. We were 10 men. We beat them 2-1 at the Etihad, but it didn't have the same impact. Or after
Yeah.
yesterday's result, that result just surpasses that purely because there's fans in the stadium and there's much more at stake. It just appears. So absolutely amazing. I mean, it and the one thing that I've been thinking about today though is, I mean, there's a state of euphoria, but
Mm.
there is a part of me. I mean, I'm an eternal pessimist when it comes to Leeds. I'm sort of thinking that if we if we go down it will just be absolutely it's going to have such a straight feeling. I'll have such a strange feeling because we've had such wonderful moments. We've beaten
Mm.
Chelsea.
Mm.
We've pulled back a two-goal deficit against Liverpool. I think it was a two-goal deficit. Oh no, no,
Yeah.
it wasn't a two-goal, but
Yeah.
yeah, two-goal
Three,
deficit against
three.
Liverpool.
But
Yeah, yeah. So
you got
we've
two
had
points home and away.
so
You
we've
got a
had
point. Yeah.
so many good results uh, that it just will be the icing on the cake will be to stay up. We've even got to the semi-finals of the FA Cup, so there's been so much good stuff that I just hope that the season isn't tarnished by relegation because that will take everything away. Because if we do stay up, it will probably be the most remarkable and the best season I've ever experienced as a Leeds fan. If we stay up, because it's just had some magical moments. We've done things that I just never imagined that we'd be able to do, and that topped it off. I mean, it was just absolutely magnificent. I mean, as I said, I'm still buzzing. I still can't believe what we could accomplish. But I just hope uh, that we stay up because otherwise this will mean nothing
Yeah.
if we go down. There you go.
I can tell you're buzzing. That's the first thing, as you should be, Ayub. Firstly, yeah, you're right. It was Liverpool 2-0, if you remember, Ekitike brace before Kanate slid in on Nonto, which got the kind of comeback going at Ellen Road. You got the equaliser at the last minute. Look, I think from a Leeds perspective, Ayub, I mean, I watched the game, as you know. I did text you throughout at an unruly hour, Ayub. That's 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. out of some sort of irrational loyalty towards you that I thought I'd watch the game. It just goes to show that on the last podcast, you were wishing that Guardiola ends this season with a triumph in the Premier League. Again, tells you a little bit about where our our values lie in terms of this friendship. It's a one-way friendship, I must tell you. No, but look, I watched the game. It was an incredible game. It was a very watchable game, and I think uh, the biggest compliment I can pay Leeds is that they deserve to win. Now, in true typical Leeds fashion, they try to throw it away, but it would have been Leeds if it wasn't the case. DCL with a good goal saving clearance from the set piece and what have you. So, look, I think they did enough to win. That first half for you was about as good a performance. I was texting you quite profusely. Now, I know you weren't watching the game, so I was a little bit bothered about texting because I know you try and stay away from your phone and follow your X. But it was just a magical, magical performance. Great chances, great opportunities. Even Tanaka, if you just look at how he creates the opportunity, that kind of exemplified what Leeds were all about. First to the ball,
Mm.
getting in ahead of people, getting 3-on-3s, transitional situations where they were just more opportunistic, took a gamble, took a risk, and they were pretty safe, to be honest with you, in the first half. I thought they were defensively pretty solid. I thought it was the first time I kind of closely watched their system in play, and United couldn't handle it. That system, United had no idea how to deal with. Leeds were brave in that system. They chose not to be a compact back five. It was a very kind of spread out, expanded back
Mm.
five. So they were getting tons of space in the middle of the park. But I thought just the performance, even Tanaka for that situation, like you said, Ayub, it's a wonderful two-touch past the keeper. He's a bit unlucky that he's had to slide at the end, and then obviously Martinez with a great clearance. And you're right, it's at half time, and you're thinking, oh, that was the
Mm.
game right there. But
Mm.
I just think from a Leeds perspective, I've said it all season long, you've obviously watched them. Maybe I've watched them more closely because I know you don't like to follow the
Yeah.
games, but
Well, you watched
but
them live. Yeah.
I watched them live. True. But we've known what Leeds have been before, haven't we? Which is in the Bielsa years at the back end when they were getting pasted fours and fives.
Mm.
They were this kind of head loss type of team, just running for the sake of running, ill-disciplined positionally. They weren't compact. You could pick them off. The big teams knew
Mm.
we could easily pick these guys off. They'd concede the most embarrassing goals, to be fair, quite often. You
Mm.
saw a little bit of that in the home game at Liverpool when I think it was Rodon who gave the ball away to Ekitike who
Yeah.
finished. But for the most part this season, they've been super competitive, super professional, I must say, as a cohesive unit. And I think that does start with the manager. And I was so pleased to see him at the end of Europe. Yes, you're right. It's not just yourself, and I say that tongue in cheek. But he has been labelled as the guy who can get you up, but that's as far as he
Mm.
can go. And you saw him on his knees celebrating. And I love that type of passion. You can see what it means to him.
Yeah.
You can see what it meant to the crowd. You can tell that the fans are kind of fully around him now, fully embracing him, taking him into their bosom, so to speak. But I thought it was a wonderful tactical masterclass from Farker as well. Because you're right, look, the situation that they conceded in the second half, being down to 10 men, that's just that's how it goes when you're at the bottom. You're gonna probably concede even with 10. Panic's gonna set in somewhat, but I thought for the most part, other than a few decent saves from the keeper as well, they fully merited it. And honestly, if they were a bit more clinical in the second half, a bit more precise with their final passes, they should have scored third and a
Mm.
fourth. Wonderful, honestly, wonderful performance. Really deserved to win the game of football. And I thought, honestly, it was a team that you could be incredibly proud of. I want to just touch on the Martinez incident. You're right. It's not quite in the rules because they've not definitively stated it's a matter of interpretation, but the IFAB rules talk about how it technically could constitute violent conduct, but the game's gone, isn't it? If that's a red
Mm.
card, I mean, look,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a yank. He also got a little bit of an arm from DCL, not a
Mm.
foul, but got an arm from DCL. But I've said before, and I've been consistent at you, game defining decisions have to have a high threshold, in my opinion, and it's a little tug. It's not a violent tug. He's not. He doesn't grimace as he's doing it, as though to really yank it, to cause some sort of pain or inflict some damage. It's a nothing situation, and I don't want to be seeing red cards for nothing situation. It's too important. The game's too important. Of course, Leeds were on the right side of it, but I think it's just too important. On the first one, I think it's a 50-50. I could see. I'm like you. If it got a given, you'd say, you know what, he's led with his
Mm.
arm. I think the fact that he scored straight away, Okafor, in terms of like, he didn't even let it bounce. He just banged straight on the volley. It didn't really allow the referee, in a sense, an opportunity to blow or kind of consider. It just happened. So it was like, oh, I'm going to have to disallow a potential goal for this. And I just think it was enough in the grey area where I think it's a bit of a subject. He didn't swing DCL, but he definitely made contact. I think that much is clear. So it's definitely in that grey zone. But look, incredible win, Ayub. A quick question from my side. I know you're a pessimist, but that must put you very, very close to safety. 6 points feels a lot when you look
Mm.
at Spurs, where Spurs are, especially with the news that Christian Romero will miss the rest of the season. How do you see it?
I mean, it puts us in a wonderful position. I almost sort of think it's that this weekend, this coming weekend, is pivotal both for the top and the bottom. Because I think if we can get a result, my only concern is complacency because I think there is that danger. I think the euphoria, the high, You need to have a certain level head, and if you're not used to them, and these are for us sort of wins against the big sides, or an exception. It's not something that happens that frequently. I mean, we've had a lot of draws. We've not been beaten that often, but we've not had that many wins. Uh, to win at Old Trafford, I just hope that Fox able to sort of bring them down, get them focused, and sort of rinse and repeat for Wednesday, for Saturday, because the Wolves game is a massive, massive game.
Yep.
If we were to get a result, a positive result, if we were to get 3 points, Spurs play on a Sunday, so technically at that stage, if we do get 3 points, it will be a 9 point gap. Uh, Spurs have got a game against Brighton, albeit it's at home, but Brighton are a decent side. So it might just put even more pressure on, but it's important. I think if we get a result on Saturday, if we get 3 points, I'm not going to say we're safe, but I'd be reasonably confident that we've done the hard yards, we've done the hard work, and I'd be very, very surprised if we end up going down. But it's a big game, it's a tough game, and it again, this is let's see what Clark is made of, because this is what coaches at the crunch time have to do. It's sort of trying to sort of make sure that players are focused.
Yep.
Uh, let them enjoy it, because you
Yeah.
don't want to not enjoy the moment, but it's very, very important that we get back to the training ground and apply the same sort of mindset that we did at the start of the game, which I thought was fantastic. I think that sort of coming out of the blocks, sort of pressing, that's the sort of thing that we need to do. It's a home game, uh, so I hope, as I said, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, because that's the danger. Because I think
Yeah.
you beat Man United at Old Trafford, you think, yeah, job done. Nowhere near job done yet. But it brings us closer. It sort of there's a sizable gap now
Yeah.
against a team that's obviously bereft of confidence. And like you said, they've lost Romero, who he's a volatile character. He's a hothead, but he's somebody that I suppose when it's a dogfight, you
Yeah.
sort of need characters like that. So it's good news for us, and I hope it's I'm celebrating after the weekend, because then I'll probably be sort of in a position, without quite saying it, I'd be sort of saying, yeah, I think we're sort of safe if we win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. It is that, I mean, if Leeds win, I know Spurs, I think, had Wolves after the Brighton game, I believe, when I checked it last. But you're right. I think the gap will be significant. Brighton will probably go there and give a good account of themselves. I just think this switch in formation, Ayub, has been the making of Leeds. It really does. They look at home with this
Hmm.
formation. They don't struggle actually in terms of getting forward. They seem to have a very good understanding of the system because they found incredible pockets of space. And I'm talking about the first 55 minutes when it was 11 against 11. They were just finding spots
Hmm.
and space. And you can tell when teams are buying in. I mean, your left back, who I've been a bit questionable on, but I thought he lots of bombing on. Even Bogle, I thought they're bombing on, which gives you an idea that they've got a real conviction in the system, in the personnel that's playing that system. It wasn't a back five at all. They're really athletes. I mean, they're really running forward, getting forward. Arons and Okafor, and even DCL. I mean, he's missed another sitter in the second half.
Hmm.
And look,
Yeah,
that was a sitter. I mean,
yeah,
there's no two ways about it. I mean, he's put two. It's similar to that chance he had for England, although
yeah, 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 yeah.
the England one was a much kind of ferocious cross from Palmer, I think, if memory serves. And you could forgive him a little bit, but he's tried to kind of head it with such conviction, where he actually just needed a little bit of a glance.
Hmm.
Similar here. Here he had to probably put a bit more on it, but you've got the entire goal to him, and he puts it in the one spot. He's perhaps a bit too safe with his finishing. If he's just not got the confidence to find those corners with any great regularity, which is what's going to prevent him from being a top striker. But look, I think Leeds have the making of. I think they'll be fine, just because. I come back to it. They've been super competitive all throughout this
Hmm.
season, apart from a few games. And I think when you're competitive enough, you'll find your way to win some games, draw some games, and lose some games. And in this league, that's probably enough to get you safe. So, look, I think they'll be fine. It's the most difficult game they had on the calendar, and you got 3 points. They've got some very winnable fixtures, at least from a Leeds perspective, remaining on the calendar. I know they've got Wolves to go, Spurs to go. Sorry, Wolves to go, Burnley to go. Yes, Spurs, West Ham will be difficult in the sense of you're playing teams around you. But I think they've got enough in the tank. But I'm happy for you. It looks like you'll be in the Premier League next season. That's a huge credit to the entire club, players, and probably most importantly, the manager. Final word, Ayub, I'll give it to you. In terms of just ranking, and you kind of alluded to in your first piece, where does this stand in terms of in recent memory, in terms of euphoric moments or great performances that you've seen Leeds play in probably recent times?
I think it's the best. I'm not going to say it's one of the best. It is the best. I think, given all the circumstances, I just think it was outstanding because I think we've had a tough season because a newly promoted side always struggles. Now, obviously, Sunderland have been an exception, but we've had some bad fortune and some really bad luck as well. We've had a lot of rough decisions. So there's uh, and we've just not had the quality. We probably of the sides at the bottom, or at least sides at the moment, trying to avoid being in that 17th spot. Is it 18th
Yeah,
position? We're probably we've got players probably of the least sort of capabilities, apart from Okafor, who I just sort of think is the only player that we have who's capable of doing some sort of magic.
yeah,
So there's a lot of things that go in against us. So with all that, to have a performance against a team that's third in the table when they've had a great upsurge in form. Obviously, at the start of the season, it was a
yeah,
different story, but under Carrick, they've been outstanding. They've been playing really, really well, and they had virtually all of their big guns playing. I mean, Ugarte, he's sort of much vilified, but on the whole, they had a really, really good, strong side, and against the backdrop of not having won there in over 40 years, absolutely magnificent. I mean, I think. Those fans who were there,
yeah.
because it's quite a unique thing, because I think it will probably be uh hopefully we'll get a chance to play them again next season, but it's not something that's going to happen that often to for Leeds to beat Man United at Old Trafford. So that was something that I think those fans who were there will never ever forget. And it's one of the most amazing. As I said, I did not sleep, and that was purely just the adrenaline was still pumping through the veins. And I must have watched the highlights about sort of 50 times so far. I've just
Can
watched it. I
imagine.
mean, yeah. It's just incredible, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one final word from my side, knowing you as I have done over these previous years, if there's one criticism that you've had of Leeds, and even the quiet discussions that we've had, it's about when they've not shown. I think that the biggest criticism you've leveled at Leeds United Football Club, other than some of the off the field stuff in terms of not recruiting, not being ambitious enough, is that they don't quite have the mentality in terms of dealing with the high
Mm,
pressurized situations. You've spoken about it many times. They just don't have the conviction and the mentality and the wherewithal to compete when it gets tough. And we know what those situations look like. And I think that's the biggest credit you can give to this Leeds team. They've shown it enough fight. They've had adversity. They've fallen behind in games. You saw it at Stamford Bridge. You saw it at Ellen Road against Liverpool. You saw it at Etihad where they nearly pulled off a
mm,
wonderful draw. So you've seen it where they've gone behind, but heads haven't dropped. They've trusted their instincts, trusted their play, and ultimately are getting their rewards. They don't look like a panicky team. They look like a very cohesive team, if you ask me. Yes, and you could tell they'd played recently because you're right. They probably just stayed in a little bit of rhythm, but I just thought they went there with a bit of purpose, and Farkas clearly sent them out with the idea
mm.
that look, let's start fast. I mean that you've got a DCL chance, you go 1-0 up. First off, probably should have been on reflection 4-1 or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I thought you were more than warranted in terms of taking a resounding lead. But yeah, listen, a wonderful result, and hopefully they should be fine to stay in the Premier League for next season as well. Ayub, just very quickly, Ayub, a couple of minutes on each game, just very very quickly. PSG against Liverpool, Anfield second leg. PSG in the driving seat today. Some pictures of them paying tribute to Diogo Jota outside the stadium. 2-0 ahead. Ayub, do you see any way back for Liverpool tonight?
No, I don't. I don't. If this was on the clock, it would be a different story. But on the slot, I just can't see it. I can't see it. I mean, there is something sort of very rotten at Liverpool Football Club, and a lot of it stems from Slot. I think there's something that he's just not capable of doing. I mean, I don't know where that club is going. I think uh, he's somebody that just has not been able to sort of process exactly sort of what Liverpool Football Club is all about. And after the performance, not just the performance in Paris, but the performances they've had in recent weeks, it's just too up and down. They're not dominant. They're not strong. I think the players uh, are certainly not playing to the top of their abilities. I just can't see it. I mean, they've got a chance. I mean, PSG are they don't park the bus. So they're going to give you an
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah,
There's been many special nights at Anfield, but usually they've always had. There's been a togetherness. I don't think it's quite there at the moment. I think it's quite a fractured football club at this moment in time. So maybe that's probably the reason why I think it's not going to happen, rather than just sort of Liverpool not being good enough. I think there's too many sort of outside factors which are influencing the performances. So I just don't think it's going to happen. It's too much of a mountain to climb for this Liverpool side under Arne Slot.
yeah. Really well summarised. I think just over my left shoulder, just a minute ago, was the famous goal by Alisson against West Brom. It might take those type of heroics tonight, but I thought it was very well summarised. That you captured my thoughts on the game perfectly. I think it's going to have to be one of those special nights at Anfield for Liverpool to get something. What I mean by that is emotion, passion, a furore, a fireball, just in terms of just where PSG just gets swallowed into that. Look, last season, I can't see it because PSG are a very good outfit. They're a very confident outfit. They've got the Champions League to boot, so they wear the aura of winners and that confidence that it takes. You see that in their play. There's a swag, there's an arrogance with
Mm,
which they play. So I just think they're the better football team, and normally the better football team will win, especially when they've got an advantage as they do in their back pocket. But in the end, to your point, Ayub, they will come to play, which means that Liverpool will get opportunities. Now, last season, Liverpool were a wonderful football team, had challenges this season, but last year I thought Anfield, over the course of 120 minutes, I thought they were the better team, although PSG probably poured it on in extra time a little bit. But actually, Liverpool missed a lot of clear-cut opportunities, Ayub, not least Salah in the first half. So, look, I think it's going to have to be one of those nights, and you know what I mean when I say that
mm,
for Liverpool to get it. But you never know; they've got a decent bench, a few players returning with Isak. They've got a young kid who I think will start today, Rio
mm.
Engamoa, and I think he should start
Yeah.
because he in every single game I've seen him, you biggest credit I can give to him is he creates something, whether that's a clear
Mm,
cut opportunity for somebody else or making a game winning contribution as he has done in a few of the games, Newcastle and Fulham to boot. But you're right, I'd probably just err on the side of the better team, and that is PSG right now. I think probably Atletico will also get through Barcelona, given the advantage they've got in that game as well. Wednesday, you just very quickly, Arsenal home to Sporting. We touched on it a few days ago. Uh, Must-win game. How do you see it?
it's more important how you see it. I mean, I just think it's a monumental game for Arsenal. I think they've got scrambled minds, certainly. I think with what's happened over recent weeks, it's one where the weight of expectation is huge. I mean, it's. I mean, I think they must have been mightily relieved they got a decent result. I mean, I think a 0-0 would have been okay, but a 1-0 away sort of gives them that sort of security. There's a little bit of security there, but I don't even know. I mean, for an Arsenal fan, you don't even want to contemplate what would happen if they were to get knocked out, because that would just be catastrophic. And I think that will be the end of the season. I've got to be honest. I mean, it's a result that I'm not going to say it's defining the rest of the season, but if they were to get a really bad result and lose and get knocked out, I'd put a million quid on Man City absolutely sort of wiping the floor with Arsenal at the weekend. So it's important uh, for that respect as well. I think it for their confidence, it's absolutely imperative that they just get the result, they get through. Because if they don't, I just can't. I don't think that they've got the mental strength to be able to sort of to cope with it. Even though they're strong mentally, sort of mentally, they've always been reasonably strong. I think towards the end, when the pressure's on, I think this might just be too much. So I think for your sake and Arsenal's sake, I think it's absolutely imperative they win. Doesn't matter how, they just win, and that's what they need. But I'm I'm it's a tough call. I mean, I think Arsenal will go through, but I don't think it's going to be clear cut. I think Sporting might sort of try and use the pressure that they're under. But it's going to be a terrific watch. I mean, it may not be a pretty game, but it's going to be an interesting watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why I've stayed friends with you all these years, are you? Because you've got £1 million in your back pocket to burn. So hopefully one day you'll remember who's been with you through thick and thin. But yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, you're right. Yeah, I agree. I'm not one for narratives. I think games can be played individualistically in terms of on its own merits, but it's no getting away from the narrative if Arsenal lose on Wednesday. I mean, look, if they lose on Wednesday, they're not winning on Sunday. You can just
Mm,
put that to bed right here, right now. I would absolutely, I mean, I'm fully on board with that. You can't lift that team.
yeah,
The mental scars of the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks would just be, I mean, I don't think it'd be close on Sunday either, to be honest with
yeah.
you. But on the flip side, a win and a good performance to boot, which I actually think is equally important, actually, I think would be important going into that huge game at the Etihad on Sunday. I thought Arteta, just very quickly, you struck the right tone. There's been a lot of talk about him potentially, perhaps dramatizing the kind of narrative, perhaps too much. But let's be real. I mean, he's kidding himself if he says, right, this is just a game of football. Everybody understands the burden that Arsenal are carrying in terms of the years. The fans are carrying it, the players are carrying it. You see that in their performances. I don't think there's
Mm,
anything getting away from that. Now, you can manage it. I think ignoring it is not the issue, as though, oh, these Etihad's just another game of football. I mean, if he came out with that, I think the
mm,
reporters would be ridiculing him. But I think what he's embraced is to say, for the longest time, and I've said this many times to you, for the longest time, Arsenal Football Club were irrelevant. They were irrelevant.
mm,
They've got a chance on Wednesday to go back-to-back semi-finals in the Champions League. Not, you don't get a trophy for that, but it tells you a measure of the progress that's been
mm,
made, that they are in amongst the big teams. Now, of course, you've got to seal the deal. I've never gotten away from that. You have to. That's how you get measured. That's how he wants to get measured. I don't think it's a case of these players don't want it enough. If anything, they just want it too badly. And that's what's stifling some of their play. Wednesday, absolute must-win game. If they don't get through on Wednesday, I don't think they need to turn up on Sunday. Just forfeit the game
mm.
because it's going to get ugly fast. But I think hopefully they should have just enough at home, in my opinion, to get through. But anyway, that wraps it up. I wanted to give you today because I think it was one of the greatest nights in Leeds United recent history. I'm sure the viewers and the rest of the footballing fraternity would agree. Ayub, just before we sign off, Ayub, how many more times are you going to watch the highlights of yesterday's game?
No, as soon as we finish this, I'm watching it again. It's just but that's the whole point, isn't it? It's in a sense, the season is there's a lot of games, but enjoy, savor. I mean, as a fan, you want to savor these moments. So until the Wolves game, I'm going to try and savor it as much as I possibly can do because it is the most one of the most remarkable results that we've had, or certainly I can remember. So it's something I'm going to enjoy for the next few days. As I said, if we have a good result against Wolves, I can continue to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to make the most of it because as a Leeds fan, we don't get so many opportunities to enjoy these moments. So I'm going to make absolute most of it.
Yeah, you've not been your family's favorite person, so I'm sure you're absolutely winding them up the wall at the moment, just constantly repeating Leeds United on the old TV, just constantly. I'm sure you're absolutely winding them up. But listen, well deserved. You've had some rough nights with Leeds over the last 10, 20, 30 years. So you deserve a few nights like this. So amazing, good stuff. You will shoot again in a couple of days in readiness. Maybe perhaps a post Champions League post mortem. Hopefully not. And a look ahead to what promises to be a mouth-watering event on Sunday. So until then, for the viewers, we'll be back soon with another podcast on Friday or Saturday. See you soon. Stay safe.